Hello, my dear. If you're hearing me now, it's because something caught your attention. Maybe curiosity, or maybe fate. I'm Grandma Jess. At least that's what everyone calls me around here. But what no one knows is that before I was a grandma, I was many other things. I was a daughter. I was a wife. I was a prisoner. And finally, I was free. Today, sitting in this rocking chair, surrounded by plants and the smell of cake in the oven, I decided to tell a story. A story I've kept buried for over 50 years. Because now, I've lived long enough to know that some secrets weigh heavier than time itself. I was born in a small town in the heart of the United States, the kind where everyone knows everything about everyone, but no one sees what happens behind closed curtains. My parents weren't bad people. They were just broken on the inside. My father, a man with a loud voice and even heavier hands. My mother, a shadow, surviving by accepting silence as her only shield. When I was 17, I thought I was in love. A boy from the neighborhood, charming, always with a cigarette in his mouth and a crooked smile. Tony. He told me I was beautiful, that my hair looked like the movie stars. And I, young, naive, craving affection, I believed him. If regret could kill, I would have died right then. At 18, I was pregnant. My father wanted to throw me out. So Tony did what any decent man was supposed to do. He married me. Marriage, that was the beginning of the prison. Tony drank a lot. He was jealous, even of my shadow. He locked me inside the house. And when Charles was born, it got even worse. Because now, I couldn't even dream of escape. He would say, "If you walk out that door, you'll never see that boy again. Never." And I stayed. Until one night, with my baby in my arms and the world collapsing behind me, I heard a sentence that shattered me. "One day, I'll tell him who his real father is. Then we'll be a real family." I froze. And in the early hours of that morning, while Charles slept peacefully on my lap, I made a vow to myself. I will escape, even if it costs me my life. He heard it. A few days later, my father had a heart attack, dropped to the floor like a stone, dead. The town wept. I didn't. All I felt was emptiness. But with the emptiness came a chance. Tony became the man of the house, which meant the master of everything. The will, all his, me and my mother, we could only stay if he allowed it. But I already had a plan. With the help of a wealthy woman from town, I got a contact in Washington, a boarding house, a job in the kitchen, a room for me and my son. All I needed was to disappear. And on a cold November night in 1966, I vanished. Every step away from that house was a scream of freedom. Every mile down the road, a final sentence in that hellish chapter. Tony never found out where I went, never knew if I was alive. And that's exactly how it should be. Washington was big, even a little frightening, but it was also free. I was a small town girl with no degree, no family name, and a little boy in my arms, stepping into a city of giants. But among giants, sometimes a kind heart stands out. It was in a boarding house in Columbia Heights that I started over. Tiny room, squeaky bed, the smell of mildew, but peace. For the first time, peace. I worked as a cook in a hotel. I scrubbed more dishes than I cooked meals, but I ate well and brought food home. Charles, just 2 years old, was already curious, clever, full of questions. My little miracle with green eyes. One rushed morning, while heading to work, I met Mr. Robert. Gray hair, round glasses, slow steps, and a gentle voice. "Is this the little boy who sings in the morning?" he asked. I laughed. Charles loved to sing. Mr. Robert was a widower, lived alone, and always walked past the boarding house. One day he offered me a job: take care of his house, cook simple meals. "Nothing heavy, I just don't like eating alone," he said. I accepted. It was the beginning of something I never expected: a real family, built on affection, respect, and silence. Because I never had to explain anything. He never asked. I never told. Charles grew attached to Mr. Robert like to a grandfather. And over time, that old man grew attached to us too. He gave books to Charles, taught him big words, told jokes only the two of them understood. A bond without blood, but stronger than any family tie. In 1971, when Charles turned 5, I enrolled him in kindergarten. Blue uniform, tiny backpack, gapped teeth. He smiled. I cried. My little boy was growing. But children grow and ask questions. "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy?" My heart froze. I knew that moment would come. "Your father died when you were a baby." I lied. And I'd lie again if I had to. Some truths kill, others save. I chose to save my child. I created a hero, a good man, hardworking, taken by a tragic accident. The truth? I buried it with me. In 1973, Charles turned 7. Mr. Robert threw him a party. Cake, balloons, neighbors. I took photos with the camera he gave me, frozen moments of an unlikely happiness. That year, something changed. Not between me and Robert as a romance, there was never that, but as a bond, companionship. He started calling me daughter, called Charles his grandson, a real family stitched together with care. But time takes its toll. In the winter of 1974, Mr. Robert's health finally gave out. Frequent hospital stays. I split my time between his bedside and our home. Charles helped how he could. The neighbors supported us. For the first time, I had a network, a community. One night at the hospital, with his voice already weak, he said to me, "Jessica, you were the daughter I never had. Charles, the grandson I never got to know." And he smiled. A few days later, he passed in his sleep, just as he deserved, in peace. The funeral was simple. 2 sons showed up, men in suits, cold as marble. They wanted to know who I was, why their father left the house to me. "Just a maid?" they implied. But the will was clear. Everything legal. The house was mine. Ours. For the first time, I had a home, a roof that was mine. Not borrowed, not rented, not a cage. Mine. Charles grew up there. Strong, brilliant. He never knew the truth, never met the monster. He only knew what I chose to show: love, respect, hope. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, hiding it all, lying. But then I look at him now, a father, a good man, and I think, if loving means protecting, then I loved in the purest way possible. Charles was turning 9. He was no longer the little boy he used to be. Now he was a preteen, curious, questioning, full of whys. His green eyes sparkled with life, but sometimes they sparkled with doubt. "Mom, what did Dad do for work again?" "Construction, honey. He helped build the city. And where are his pictures? We lost everything during a move. Every question, another lie. Every lie, another brick in the wall. I was building between him and the truth. The wall had to be tall, solid, impenetrable. At night, after Charles fell asleep, I would write, not a diary, a record of the pain, of the escape, of everything I could never say out loud. I hid the notebooks deep in a drawer behind clothes I never wore. Maybe one day someone would read them, but not him, never him. In 1976, adolescence hit full force. Charles now had a deeper voice, pimples on his face, and a spark in his eyes for a girl in his class. Normal, healthy, everything I had always wished for him. But there was something that haunted me, the eyes, those damned green eyes, each year more like his. Sometimes in an angle, a glance, I saw the monster. I'd take a deep breath, tell myself, genetics isn't destiny. Love wins. Education heals. In 1977 came high school graduation. Charles in a suit, diploma in hand. I sat hidden in the audience, crying with pride. My boy turning into a man. The following year, he made an announcement. I want to be an engineer, like my dad, the father who never existed. I smiled. You will, son. You'll make all your dreams come true, even if they were built on a lie I created to save him. When his college acceptance came, the whole street celebrated. Charles had been accepted to civil engineering at Georgetown University. Claudia, his girlfriend at the time, was the first to arrive. You did it, love, she shouted. And he answered, We did it, Mom. I smiled. But inside, I crumbled. For everything I had endured until that point. For the certainty that it had all been worth it. The lie had worked. But life doesn't let up. College was expensive. Books, transportation, food. I went back to working 2 shifts. Diner in the morning, cleaning at night. Exhaustion became routine. But his dream was worth every drop of sweat. In 1979, Charles began his second year. He had an internship, was in a serious relationship with Claudia, a focused, kind, respectful young man, so different from the man who fathered him. One day, Charles came home with her and said, Mom, this is the woman of my life. I smiled. He was only 19 teens, but it was love. In 1980, graduation. My son, an engineer. On stage, he searched for my eyes. I just cried, each tear, a piece of the pain fading away. At the party, Claudia's parents approached me. You raised a wonderful man. I replied, he was born good. A lie? The truth? Maybe both. In 1981, the wedding. A packed church, veil, gown, wedding march. I was a bridesmaid. Where are your relatives, Mrs. Smith? They asked. All gone. Another half-truth. Gone to me, at least. But that wedding, it was the opposite of everything I had lived. It was love chosen, not forced. Respect, not fear. A new chapter. In 1982, my first granddaughter was born, Mary Claire. Beautiful, healthy, loud. Charles, completely smitten with fatherhood. Claudia, radiant. And me, a grandmother at 51 Mars. When they placed that baby in my arms, someone said, She looks like you. I looked. Dark hair, button nose, no green eyes. Thank God. 1986. Just an ordinary night. The grandkids were asleep. The house was quiet. I turned on the TV, flipping through channels, until I stopped on a news segment. The city of Oak Ridge invests in modernization. Oak Ridge. The name I had spent 20 years avoiding. I saw aerial footage, buildings, paved streets, smiling people. So much had changed. But one question cut through me like a knife. Was he still there? Had he remarried? Had he done to others what he did to me? I turned off the TV. trembling. That place didn't belong to me anymore. But the past, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a crack to escape through. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. I walked into the grandkids' room. Mary Claire was cuddling her teddy bear. John Robert was softly snoring. They were my whole world now, and their world didn't need my past. 1987, 1988, 1989. The years went by. Charles was thriving as a businessman. Claudia opened her own practice. I was retired, devoted to the grandkids, the garden, and storytelling afternoons. Stories with fairies, princes, happy endings, never with monsters. In 1992, Claudia gave me a camera to capture the moments, Donna Jessica. I started taking pictures of everything, but the most beautiful ones were the ones only my soul could see. Peace, safety, a life I had built in silence. The 2000s arrived. I was now a great-grandmother. Alice was born, curious and full of imagination. One day she asked me, "Great-grandma, have you ever thought about writing your memoirs?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "Oh, my life isn't that exciting, darling," I lied again. But that question echoed in my mind. What if someday someone needed to hear my story? What if there was another Jessica out there, trapped in an emotional basement, believing there's no way out? That's when I decided to record this video, this confession. At 73 years old, I'm done hiding. Not for me, for them, for all the women who think their past defines their future. It doesn't. It doesn't have to. Charles doesn't know this story. He never will. Some might say that's wrong, that he has the right to know. But I say he has the right to be happy, to believe in his hero of a father, to live without the weight of crimes that were never his. Did I build a lie? Yes. But it was a lie built with love. A lie that saved a life, that kept the darkness from repeating itself. Today, as I look at my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, I know I won, and if I could win, so can others. Maybe you, who are listening to me now, are at rock bottom. Maybe you think there's no way out, but there is. There always is. Sometimes it's not a door, not even a window. Sometimes it's a tunnel you dig with your own hands, but you can get out. You can rebuild. And one day you'll look back and say, I did the impossible, just like I did. If you've watched this far, thank you. That alone tells me my story wasn't in vain. Like this video, comment where you're from, show that this network of strong women stretches across the country. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, share it. It might be the push they've been waiting for. My name is Jessica Randall, or rather, Jessica Smith, mother, grandmother, survivor. And this was the story I kept hidden my whole life. Until now.